and welcome to another edition of Top 5. I'm Beth, and I'm going to be talking about my top 5 horror picks. There are all different reasons to read horror, just like there are all different types of horror novels out there. But generally, we read horror to get scared. There are many, many wonderful horror novels out there, from classics like Dracula by Bram Stoker to modern masterpieces like The Shining by Stephen King. And there are plenty of ways you can experience your greatest fears from the relative safety of your favorite reading spot, with all the lights on, of course. But today, I'm going to focus on some titles that you might not have heard of. So let's get started. For number 5, I chose The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. If you're a fan of revenge thrillers and you have an interest in Native American culture, then this might be a good pick for you. The Only Good Indians follows 4 Native American men after a disturbing event from their childhood puts them in the crosshairs of an indescribably horrific entity bent on revenge. Their culture and traditions that they left behind catch up to them in a violent and vengeful way. This novel focused heavily on characters, so some readers may find the meandering plot a bit slow, but the slow burn builds to a gruesome conclusion, perfect for the season. Number 4, The Living Dead by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus. If your horror tastes skew more toward gore and zombies, then you're in luck. The master of the zombie story, Night of the Living Dead creator and director George A. Romero, has the book for you. The Living Dead, the unfinished novel Romero was working on when he passed away, was finished by author Daniel Kraus, who collaborated on The Shape of Water. This modern and global take on the classic zombie story starts with the very first case of a mysterious plague victim and jumps between multiple characters and storylines until you reach a final showdown. This reads like a movie, and I know you won't be able to put it down. Perfect for people who want to relive their first experience of Night of the Living Dead. For my number 3, I picked Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. Meddling Kids subverts teen detective archetypes like Hardy Boys and, as you may have guessed, the Scooby-Doo gang. And it delivers a wickedly entertaining celebration of horror, love, friendship, and many-tentacled interdimensional demon spawn. The Blyton Summer Detective Club was a group of childhood friends who investigated supernatural mysteries in the 1970s. 13 years after their last case, horrific nightmares send the former friends back to Blyton, Oregon, to figure out what really happened that night, only to discover a Lovecraftian horror that could end the world as we know it. For fans of pop culture, dark humor, and the creepy psychological horror found in H.P. Lovecraft's classic horror novels, this is for you. Coming around to my number 2, Slate House by David Mitchell. This unique take on the haunted house trope spans 5 decades, and it doesn't focus on individual characters. Instead, it focuses on what happens once every 9 years behind a small black iron door in a narrow alley down from a working-class British pub. Drawn to the door, complete strangers from different backgrounds are invited in by the house's residents, an odd brother and sister. Then they are never heard from again. This slim novel is great for readers who like psychological horror and like to experience that haunted house trope in a new and unique way. This book will definitely leave you unsettled. And finally, my number 1 pick for the horror season is actually Full Throttle by Joe Hill. And this is not a single novel, this is a collection of short horror stories. Now, if you want to dip your toes in horror without diving too deep, then a short story collection might be just the thing. Despite being short and easy to read, good short stories can be every bit as immersive as a full-length novel. And Joe Hill is the master of the immersive short horror story. I personally love this collection, Full Throttle, because it features 13 relentless tales of supernatural suspense, including my personal favorites of his, Fawn, which is a blood-drenched fairy tale with Narnia-like elements, and Late Returns, which follows a grief-stricken librarian who delivers fresh reads to the dead in an antique bookmobile. This is a great way to get into the horror season. And those are my top 5. I hope you enjoy them.